we on a sister ship. Come with us, we on a sister ship. Yeah, we on a sister ship. Roll with us, we on a sister ship.
Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it.
We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. Substance, ho! Sis, you know we on a mission, no games. Help each other get over some things, build strength, bring change. Cause we've been through the rain, now it's time to shine like bling. Let's talk about life skills. We building up our quality to right wills. We rolling out of poverty, love heals. So we become the prodigy of how a sistership could be a really hot commodity. Stand together, we united, hold hands, support each other dreams and our plans, doing everything we can. Just to show we understand the power of a friendship, fam. Live life on purpose. Together we learn and yeah, let's talk. We don't wanna see you hurt, and we here for each other, no matter the color. Networking, that's for sure and for certain. Come on,
Yeah, we on a sistership. Roll with us, we on a sistership. Yeah, we on a sistership. Roll with us, we on a sistership.
we're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya.
Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Roll with us, we on a sistership. We on a sistership. Come with us, we on a sistership. Hello, beautiful people! Facebook, all the other social media platforms. We are here, we are live and in color and in this beautiful studio. Talking about color, we are having a show today about interracial relationships, marriages, historic conversations, current conversations. We got beautiful people. The energy and the vibe is on fire. Tifco, thank you for this luncheon that I got going on here. I'm so excited with the shrimp, with the fruit, with the stuffed mushrooms, and got some sweets over there. I'm glad the sweets over there because, again, that 30 COVID is real in the field right now. And like I told y'all last time, don't play around. Y'all gonna be saying these things are gonna get smaller. Enjoy them as you see them now, because I will be losing this 30 pounds of COVID weight, okay? So enjoy. Sean, enjoy, because they won't be here for long. That all being said, I just want to say, first and foremost, we are so blessed. We are so blessed. Marsha Coronata, LSW, which I learned today, Licensed Social Worker, Inc. She is local. She is doing telehealth. So, guys, I just was talking to a sister, and she was sharing to me how she couldn't find help, social help, therapeutic help, and she has telehelp, which means just how you see us today, you can see her. But she also does in person. So I want to thank you, Marsha, so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And of course, the sistership, my girls, my women, my sisters, all day, every day. You know my woman crush. You know who my woman crush is. Y'all know who my woman crush is, okay? And she is here. You know I love when I'm here with her. Lady Wisdom.
Good afternoon.
And that's the fire all day, every day. We have a couple of blings, Tifco bling, but we also have another bling. Stephia is right here.
Hey.
Yes. And thank you, Terry and Tiffany Co. and Genesis Radio. So today we are going to be chatting about, and again, I'm your girl, TiffanyRowe.info. We are going to be chatting today about interracial relationships. And I want to just really quickly share, despite the persistent prejudice in the world, we can't deny that as a country, we've come pretty far in taking steps to end racial discrimination. And before y'all, because I know y'all start yelling about how I'm wrong, just take a deep breath. Have a calming sip of tea and acknowledge that nowadays, in our millennial generation, we are actively open and accepting to diversity in a way that our forefathers would have gagged at. The fact that you would even argue against me about that extent of our progress is evidence, though, enough that we are concerned with acknowledging the inherent humanity and rights of all people. It's fantastic, and we should be proud of ourselves for that. So I want to say thank you, United States. At this point, we are so much further along than we were before. So today,
In some areas.
in some areas, and then we're going to go into that. So I want to just kind of share, as a raise of hands, who here has been in an interracial relationship? Okay, so you and I have not. Okay, and you two high-fiving. Okay, so that being said, again, in reference to where we have been as a country, and I want to share too, really, it's about the country. Because I was listening to Iman, who is from the continent, and she was talking about how when she came here to be a model, they were saying to her, somebody would say, get the black model, get the black model, get the black model. And she would look around like, who are they talking about? Who are they talking about? Because in other countries, that race, which we have already decided and know, somebody in a race has to win and lose. So, I don't like that word too much, but we're going to play with it because it is what it is. She didn't know who the black model was, and they were talking about her.
Wow.
So I say that to say in this country here is where we have this conversation is so, I don't know if it's taboo. I don't know if it's relevant. I don't know if whatever it is, but it happens here. So for my women who are here that have interracial relationships, what are some of let's talk about maybe the pros. Let's talk about the pros. Let's start up here. Okay. Let's talk about the pros of that. And I want to also say Fire is one of our Sistahship people. Like she do a whole lot. Like this for her to almost be she's a host, but in a kind of, she's not a guest. But we're gonna be coming to you for some information, okay? So I say that to say that's some transparency. So I want to just commend you and bless you for that, because sometimes that is a little difficult to do. And so I want to thank you and bless you and to everybody. Another thing before we start, I want to say a shout out to Haiti. I want to just shout out to Haiti. Yes, they had an earthquake, and it just seemingly our brothers and our sisters over in Haiti, also next door Dominican Republic, just haven't been catching a climate break.
Right.
Anika's family. Mika's family.
My brother-in-law's family, too.
So I want to definitely, the Sistahship Network, we are praying for you. I do have something I'll share later in the show of how we can help Haiti. So just, blessings and prayers to all our Haitian brothers and sisters throughout the United States, and definitely those that are still embarked on the island. But so let's start with our therapist. Okay, so that,
a pro.
So a pro, and I want to talk about the pros.
I think a pro for me has always been just really being able to meld different diversities. Like, that's always been something that's never bothered me, and showing other people that it's okay. Like as a teenager, I was probably one of, and I don't know how old you are, but it's really just started with my generation where we started dating black men. And we were getting dirty looks back then, and now we still get the looks sometimes, but I don't notice them as much as when I was a teenager. And when I was a teenager, I was just like, it's a person. Right? It doesn't matter to me what color they are.
Right. So in other words, people tend to forget that, they like to say love is love. Your heart doesn't tell you, no, they are a different race.
Right.
Or ethnicity.
Right.
We're only one race. We're the human race.
Right.
Exactly. But we're different ethnicities, and that's one of the biggest things is you love who you love.
You love who you love is powerful. And I think that spreads in reference to many marginalized individuals, LGBTQ as well, as far as loving who you love. Now, did you meet your partner early, when you were in high school when you guys met?
I started, see, to me, it's not just black men, though. It's always an attraction. I've had attraction towards darker men. Yeah.
Me too.
Darker eyes, darker hair, darker skin tone. But so it wasn't just black men.
It's just a preference.
It's just a preference, just like some men like blondes. That's what they're attracted to. To me, it was just that's what I was attracted to as a teenager.
That's actually interesting because, I started thinking about this conversation and my situation. And for me, again, high school, I mean, I'm in my 40s.
So am I. So am I. That's why I said
nearing 50. But, but we lived in a very diverse city. Passaic, New Jersey. Shout out to Passaic, New Jersey, class of 91. Had to get that in there. But, we grew up in a very diverse city. It was like we called ourselves the United Nations because we had everybody. And I mean every culture, every race, every ethnicity. I mean, it was everybody. And it really wasn't. So for us, for me personally, it was never about, oh, I like a darker skinned person or whatever. I dated Hispanic. I dated Italian. I dated, so for me, it was never about I want a darker skinned person. It was somebody I wanted that I was attracted to their mind, their spirit. My husband is a comedian, love him to death. I mean, there's things that I wanted in a relationship that had nothing to do with the color of the person. It was how they treated me and how I felt comfortable being with that individual, And yes, to your point, I got the same thing. I mean, in high school, the girls were, black girls were looking at me. If I was dating one of the black students, they were looking at me like, you taking our man. And I'm like, this ain't about that. You know what I'm saying?
Tell
For me.
Tell me how it's, and that's real talk. Tell me how, when you are experiencing a brown woman or girl, because at that point we're talking about young people, and they're saying, you're taking our men.
That's real talk.
Tell me what that felt like for you.
Yeah. I think for me, it was like, I don't think you understand that it wasn't about taking a black man. It was about who I was feeling at that moment. You know what I'm saying? And who I was interested in because, again, not because the color of his skin. And to me, that's, it takes two to tango. Okay? So at the end of the day, for me, it was about the individual, what was inside of them, and not so much the color of his skin. And that's where I was like, you're not, I understand, and I want to say that I understand the concern around lineage, right? And wanting to be, keep within your own race. And that's fine. But for me, it wasn't about that. It was about, hey, understand where I'm coming from. Because it's not about that. I'm not trying to take a black man. I'm just involved with somebody who happens to be black.
Yeah. A man. Just a man. That's what I used to tell people.
Exactly.
I had people come up to me, even at my first professional as a licensed clinician, and they said to me, another person said to me, a colleague, oh, so you like black men? And I'm like, no, I like men.
Yeah.
I thought that was the most ignorant comment I had ever heard. Especially out of another licensed professional.
But usually it comes from ignorance.
Exactly.
Right.
It is pure ignorance to even suggest that. Because I actually seen, and I guess it was a TikTok. I don't have TikTok, the app itself, but I do see TikToks. And this one young lady, she was saying to them, this one guy, he asked the question of, how do black women feel about white women being with black men? And the young lady said, honestly, keep us out of it.
Yeah.
It's not our business who you're dating. Now, it usually comes from the ignorance of someone suggesting it. Now, has it come? It's a long time. It's been a long time since this has been a play. I mean, the Lovins was a major, they had a major effect on it. They actually had a law.
Yeah.
That dealt with interbreeding. The Lovins were married, but they actually took it. They were arrested in 1958, and then their case wasn't even heard until 1967.
Yes.
So that was a fight to be fought. And they fought it, but it was based on ignorance. I mean, and if you really think about it, it was pure bona fide ignorance because it was talking about it was based on a law that dealt with interbreeding people of different races and incest and That's what they considered. That was the law that they was fighting against. And there was 22 states that made it illegal for interracial people to be together.
Right.
And Virginia happened to be one of them, and that's how the Lovins even came about, because they lived outside of Virginia to be together, and then they got tired of being away from their family.
Right. Right.
So they went into fight.
Right.
I wanted to say, disappointingly, prejudice has evolved along with our mindset and has adapted to become subtle and internalized. What's shocking to me is how sneaky racial discrimination is when it comes to encountering a couple in an interracial relationship. 1 second you're looking at young lovers holding hands, and then suddenly you deep, dark parts of your brain whisper, I wonder what their kids are going to look like. Are they going to be white or are they going to be black?
Yeah.
We just dealt with, what is her name? The princess, Meghan Markle, sharing her experience with the British Empire, saying to her, are the children going to be black or are they going to be white? Again, and a lot of times when we are having those thoughts, we don't say to ourselves, oh, I'm racial, or I'm racist, or I'm prejudiced, or I'm hateful. I'm none of these things. However, when you are mentally thinking about what someone else's children are going to look like, there's a conversation that might want to be had with yourself in reference to that. So I say that to say, I know you have children that are biracial. Prior to, let's say, okay, and you're with your mate, and you're together and you're loving up on each other and you're having this real conversation, this real relationship, and then you are pregnant. What was the energy that you received from people that knew the relationship that you were in?
See, now I'm a little bit different in that way. I don't allow myself to be around anybody who's going to show me any energy like that.
Amen.
And the minute they do it, they're cut off.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
They're cut off.
Right.
Okay.
And that's that. And
Right.
and that's one of the things about being in an interrelationship that's important with me, that my partner is capable of doing that also. And they're capable of being just as comfortable with me without those inside or those dirty looks bothering him.
Right. Right. That's actually a good point, because my husband and I were actually talking about that, and thankfully his family, my family, our friends, our nuclear friends, never once brought up, oh, well, why did you choose so and so? You know, why you choose a white girl, why you choose a black man, et cetera, and so on. It was never that energy. They loved both of us. You know what I'm saying? And we went into a situation where, yeah, we're an interracial couple, but we were accepted by our friends and family. It wasn't even oh, I accept you. It was just natural. Like that feeling, that aura, that, energy around us was just positive. It was never a question, never a look, never a stare, never a conversation. It was like, he loves her, she loves him. How you doing?
I wish I had that positive experience, actually, because I did have that from my immediate family. But I would say, like, some of the cousins out and things like that, I don't talk to them to this day.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just it. Bye.
Wow.
Now, what area are you from?
I'm from New Jersey.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
both
Both
from
from
kind
Jersey.
of like.
But I
more-
went to Pocono Mountain High School, actually, and it was
Okay.
very diverse when I went there.
Right.
It was already,
Because I'm going to say, coming from more of a cosmopolitan environment, there is definitely more allowances in the movement, you would say. But I would say for me, now, I come from NYC, but I grew up in a black neighborhood, period. And for us, for growing up, it wasn't gonna. If a Caucasian young man came to visit Tiffany in South Jamaica, Queens, he was gonna have to be that. He gonna have to come with some kind of swag to just go through the building. I'm just gonna be very clear.
Yeah.
Even the swaggiest of killers had to come with some extra swag to come through the building. So I say that to say, living in different diverse environments, how do you have that conversation with that young person who has that person that's about to come visit them, and that conversation?
And a diverse environment like we grew up in?
Well, not so much a diverse environment because now you're up here.
But that's what she
Yeah.
said. She was in high school here, so in the diversity of it here, she
It
still
was
experienced
changing.
here.
It was changing.
It was
It was
changing.
changing,
Yeah,
yeah.
there was a lot of black students. There was a lot of Hispanic students, Chinese. Like it wasn't an all white school that I was going to at all. So it was common for people to interracially date even then. My family, like I said, I did greet a little bit of like, you know, what are you doing? I got that, you know, and I was like, well, what? What's the problem?
Yeah.
But that's just the way I always thought. So
And
that's,
did they give you any answers to what, when you asked what would be the problem? Did they come to you with anything?
Oh, one family member said, well, you're supposed to, you know, stick with white people, and I'm like, well, who says?
Who said that?
Right.
Who says?
Who says? That's not what I like him right now.
Right.
That's who I like.
And that's interesting because although you have a diverse school system, doesn't mean you're not going back to your neighborhood,
Yep.
which is either predominantly black, Hispanics, whatever have you. Because we still had, if you think about it, there still was segregation of neighborhoods
Absolutely.
Right. That's
back
me.
then,
Yeah.
right? But the only time you really intermingled was really with school. And we took that back home because for us, we lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, but it was a Jewish neighborhood. We had a Jewish synagogue or whatever right down the street, so they were a Hasidic Jewish neighborhood. And we moved there from Passaic into Passaic Park. We had a park right down the street. But anyway, you know when people put park, it's like supposed to be the higher end, right?
Yes, another level.
We know that. It's another
Gramercy
level.
Park.
Right.
Dog.
I'll tell you a story about West Patterson that got changed. Their name got changed, and we'll get into that at some other point. But you know, you're still going back to your own neighborhood, right? So if you brought that other race or culture or whatever have you into that neighborhood, did at that moment you get those type of stares, you know, people looking at you all strange and whatever have you? Because we had 2 black families in our neighborhood, 2 black families out of hundreds, right? We had Middle Eastern, we had Irish, we had Italian, Jewish again. And the 2 black families, they came into, like, so I was born in the 70s. We didn't start seeing black families come into Passaic Park until late 80s. I was graduating from high school soon thereafter. So it was a migration of trying to get more diverse in certain communities, which initially wasn't the case, right? People weren't looking at it as, you know, diverse neighborhoods. They were, you know, we're going to stick in a neighborhood that looks just like us. So it was good to finally see the diversity start traveling through neighborhoods that you normally don't see it.
That you don't see it. And a lot of times when that diversity takes place in environments that are predominantly of one or the other, it's more economic.
True, absolutely.
So I'm sure anyone moving into XYZ Park is based on the fact that somebody got a raise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody had to bust their butt.
Somebody, right.
But I mean, but at some point, so I also grew up in New York, and I grew up in Laurelton. So I was between Brooklyn and Queens, and when I was in Brooklyn, I was in Brownsville. When my mom worked hard enough and she got us out, we went into Laurelton, which was a very diverse neighborhood. But we forget that gerrymandering happened, where they set boundaries and they blocked off and they limited where they will take you.
Wow.
Is it still happening today? In some places it is. You have people that are looking for homes. They'll go in there, they'll be black. And the value of the home is decreased because of who they are. I've heard stories of interracial relationships where the one spouse will go just to see what would happen, and then the other spouse comes in, and it's kind of like, whoa.
And I definitely
And it catches you by surprise.
the e-commerce piece, the money piece.
Right.
So and again, going into that in reference to, and thank you, Lady Wisdom, because that's that other piece, that money piece. So we talk about, you know, relationships, and we talk about marriage, and we talk about, sometimes we've talked about, is it a business? or is it love? And when you bring that other element into the environment, and especially you're in Laurel, when you grew up in Laurelton, you also are hitting Long Island, closer.
Yeah, so you had problems with the kids in the neighborhoods. Like on one side of us, we had Rosedale. So Rosedale took us on two sides. So was it Rosedale?
Rosedale.
And then you had South Jamaica.
That's me.
And
The problem.
then you had Cambria Heights on the other side. So
Yeah.
you had Rosedale on one end, on two ends, and then you had Cambria Heights, and then you had South Jamaica.
Springfield. Right, and now you going into
So then
Valley
you start
Stream.
to change. You start changing the predominance in those areas as you start moving. Even when I first moved up here, and I first started coming up in the 80s, and then I moved up here in the 90s, they were doing exactly that. They were setting people in certain areas. They were literally taking majority of the black folks up into Mount Pocono.
Redlining.
So they was choosing and deciding where they was gonna make sure. Oh, you want to come up here? This is where we're putting you.
Wasn't that big time though period where it was
Why rent?
Yep. Well, okay, so the real estate professional will speak. The real estate professional will speak. So Why Rent was the ownership of someone who owned that. But it wasn't just Why Rent. What
No, it wasn't.
with Why Rent did that gave them that much energy was systematically they advertised to a specific group.
Yes.
So if you were a hot 90 whatever, you were a power 10 whatever, those were the radio stations and the Caribbean Times and all that. So they went after a specific demographic, even though there wasn't one person in the whole company that actually looked like that demographic. However, that situation was, yes, they bought a bunch of properties, they went to one demographic and they advertised it. When I first moved, I don't know, when I first moved here, trust me when I tell you that was the first place I was taken. So there's no ifs, ands, buts about that. Was that some kind of planning of some sort? If it wasn't, please tell me, because I wanted a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, Center Hall Colonial with a basement on 1.5 acres worth of property, 3,000 square feet above grade, and they took me to an area that could not even have a basement because a lake is right next door. So everything I wanted, they were not doing. They just pushed me into a certain space. I made a decision because I had a plan of what I wanted. This wasn't it, and I moved out of that. But that being said, yes, the powers that be have in this country for a very long time have planning scenarios, maybe quiet conversations, maybe meetings that no one else goes to, that they make decisions or they have an ideology of how they think it needs to look like. So that being said, though, we can blame a lot of scenarios, but we also, going back to being on this soil, being those who were free that were on the soil, being those that came here to be enslaved, because again, we were not slaves. We came here to be enslaved. We were artisans, we were doctors, we were scientists, we were all those things. We came here to be enslaved. That all being said, when we come here, we have an idea and an ideology and a pain and a PTSD. So I wanted to go back to when you had shared taking our men.
Yeah.
There is you don't have to have an understanding, but there is a line that a woman, a grandmother, a great-great-grandmother may have in reference to saying, we went through so much.
Right.
I look like this. Yeah, I look like this. I don't have a grandmother who's white. I don't have a great-grandfather. Some people do. My coloring did not come from a loved relationship.
Yeah.
So there's that piece there too. And that's why I love that we're here today to have this dialogue.
Yeah.
How can you have that conversation as a woman when a brown woman does say,
Yeah.
you took our men,
Yeah.
especially when she has that PTSD.
Yeah. I think it's back to understanding, right, where that person's coming from, because I think we're very quick to react to those situations. And again, being young, I didn't understand it.
Right.
You know, I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, I don't know. And again, I wasn't brought up with African American history and understanding the plight and all that was involved, because they didn't teach us that in school. In a diverse school, they didn't even have African American studies until I was already probably 1990, 89. I was already coming out of high school. So I didn't even have that education or understanding at that point in time to understand why is it that I was getting that. You know? And I think it takes experience, it takes conversation. So if somebody did now come to me and say that, first of all, I would say, well, why are you feeling that way? I get it. Like, you know, I understand now, but why? I need to understand where you're coming from. And secondly, I would also say, my husband is my husband. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what he could have been, whatever, Indian, Hispanic, whatever. I chose the man because I loved him, and he chose me because he loved me. It takes, again, two people to tango. If he was meant to be with you, he'd be with you. And it had nothing to do, again, with race. It had to do with what he wanted and what I wanted.
Hey,
without looking at that.
Some people like vanilla ice cream, some like chocolate.
And you know what? And I like strawberry. But you know what? I like French vanilla. I'm just saying.
French vanilla.
Strawberry. And I have to say for myself, I actually, you know, again, I've been with Sean for almost my entire adulthood. So
More than half your life.
Yeah, more than half of my life. So it's a little. Yeah, I don't have the experience. I mean, all is spade is spade. You know what I mean? And then that's no pun intended. Y'all don't take the spade and run with that. I know how y'all be doing. All right, please. That's not what it meant. Don't play with me. But you know, you. That's who I have been with now. Prior to, I tried to date a Spanish guy one time, and then his mother loved me so much, knew her son was a jerk, and said, if you date Tiffany, you'll be homeless if you hurt her. And then he broke up with me, like, you know, the one day we dated, the next day he broke up with me because he knew he was going to hurt me. So I never dated outside of
your race.
And this culture, this lineage. But that being said, now you have children. Talk about the hair.
The hair?
On a lighter note.
See, now, I have a younger one, and she looks black.
Okay.
She's probably darker than you.
Okay.
You say?
Right.
Yeah, she's probably darker than you. And she's got a mix of hair. But when she was very young, I started training it, and I just always worked with it, and her hair's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's thick. Sometimes she wears it like Diana Ross. Other times she's slicking it back and up. Then the older one, she has white people hair.
Okay, it's more
just
silky.
curly.
It's more less curl.
Yeah.
So as a woman, so you have two daughters. Okay, so as a woman, because again, I was a hairstylist for a few decades, and I actually, when I came out here, that was my ticket. That was my financial ticket. Was meeting every woman I saw that was Caucasian and had a little brown baby. Oh, let me tell you what I do. Let me help you with that. Talk about. Let's serious. I want to bring it on a lighter
How did I
note.
teach myself?
Yes. How did you teach yourself?
I worked at a Willow Glen Academy, so a lot of those kids were from like the Camden area and stuff like that. And there was another woman who works there, and she taught me how to do hair.
I love it.
Yeah, and I'm
High
not a
five
hairstylist.
to you, Mama, because let me tell you. Okay, to all of my women out there who have biracial children, go to a hairstylist or figure it out. But your kids don't have to look
nappy.
Crazy. Because our hair is our crown. Our hair is our crown.
Oh, no, and if you saw my younger, it's beautiful hair.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
There you go. There you
Beautiful. I
go.
was right on it. I'm like, no, I got to learn how to do this.
And my nieces and I have nieces and nephews, biracial nieces and nephews. Actually, my cousins who were born 3 weeks before me are biracial. Believe it or not, yes. Twin boys.
Okay, okay.
3 weeks before I was born, they were born biracial twins. And my nieces and nephews, my sister was married or is married to a Haitian gentleman, and they had 5 kids, 4 girls, and the last one was a boy. And that was the other thing, like, how, to your point, how do you do their hair? That was like, how do you do their hair?
Well, you
Yeah.
research
that
it,
would-
but you can research it. Just
Oh,
like you do
absolutely.
everything
Yeah.
else.
Google.
Google if you don't know.
Yep.
If you have a neighbor that you, whether you know them or not, how you doing?
Yep.
I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
I need a little help. Can
Yeah.
you help me out?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I am not necessarily. I don't know how to describe it because all my life I had no idea how biracial I truly was.
Right.
Um,
Right.
But I have 2 daughters,
Mm-hmm.
and they have different hair. And literally, my granddaughters are now having the same thing. They have different hair. I got one granddaughter that got the straight hair,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got the 2 granddaughters that got the curly hair. I got one granddaughter whose hair is so. But if you see my daughters and you see how their hair is kept, they have to do it. It's as if I was a mother of 2 biracial daughters.
Mm.
I dealt with the tight curls,
Mm.
and I dealt with the thinner hair, where it was easier to manage. But nevertheless, the hair was always long, and I had to deal with it from start to finish. When I looked at my relationship and the life that I had, I learned a lot of things as an adult. So my mom was a product of the 40s brown babies, is what they called them in Europe. My mother's from Europe. She's literally born in England, and she's interracial. And there was a time when money, the soldiers was going and they were in Europe, or entertainment was in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And if a family was looking to earn some money, they would technically have a young woman of their family have a baby for one of the more financially sound
Mm.
other races. My grandfather, that's how my mother and my aunt came about. They were little brown babies, and if you look it up in Europe, they actually have a whole article. It was a whole thing that was happening, and it wasn't just a few. It was a ton of babies born in that era where they were making the babies. Now, if you had, God rest my mother's soul, but had my mom been here, she could have told you what it was like to be the product of a interracial relationship. But her mother was told that she would be disowned if she kept my mother.
Wow.
But her father happened to be the father that made her. But in the process of when my grandmother had died, they learned that she was never the same after my mom was taken from her and she was brought over to America. So it was against the law to actually have interracial children here in America in some states.
Mm-hmm.
So when she came here, she happened to go to a diverse neighborhood, and my mom suffered for being who she was. Got a lot of people that aren't proud of who they are, and I had to have this conversation with a lot of people this past season because in the last year you had people, especially during COVID. COVID happened to open up your eyes to a lot of things.
yeah.
A lot of people. If you don't know, Maya Angelou has a saying: when somebody shows you who they are the first time,
Believe 'em.
Believe them.
Yep.
And this last year, anybody with any open eyes, you started seeing people for who they were. Not who they were, but who they are.
Who they are.
In a different light. So it puts you in a place of learning. And I had to learn how people were seeing me. And as I get older and my hair gets grayer, they see the white person.
That's what I was gonna. That's what I wanted
They
to
see
share
the white
about.
part of me more than they see
Mm-hmm.
the other part of me.
Let me ask you a quick question in reference to that with your mom, because we are talking about more of a visual than we are the spirit.
Right.
In reference to when you talk about interracial relationships, it really has more to do with the world than it has to do with what happens in your four walls of your
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
So when mom was walking, what did people assume she belonged to? Which group did they assume she belonged to?
My mom had the soft straight hair, but she kept it short because she didn't want you to try to figure out who she was.
Oh,
Okay.
Wow.
But she was also a rebel. Like, she always had a cause. And I technically, so that's who I am. Like, I'm a rebel with the cause, always a cause for the underdog. So, do I get to choose? And I learned it from my mother. My mom would fight for whoever was needing to be fought for.
We love her.
And
Bless her.
And
Bless her.
And I didn't have to, and this is how I had to really go off one day in my office because I had to explain to them, I don't choose either or. Because without them
Yeah.
on both sides, I couldn't be me.
Right.
So you don't have to, I'm not going to choose one and say the other one's bad. If you're bad, like I explained to my granddaughter today, all police officers aren't bad. There's some bad police officers. All white people aren't bad. All black people aren't bad. People don't like to use the word. I could say people of color, but people get offended when I say that too. So it's
Say
kinda
whatever you
like
feel.
I'm at that moment.
We still
where
growing
it's-
with that. We still trying to figure that out.
I'm going to tell you how I feel, but I don't get to pick one or the other because I don't love either part of my family any less.
Different.
Right.
And if I did, then I would choose me. I have to
Can
love
we give
me.
I have to give you
Right?
I
And that's
mean,
what you gotta
I'm
teach
so
your kids,
far away
love
from you,
themselves.
and you know I love you so much. That was beautiful.
But you have to teach your children, those that have biracial children, those that are interracially in relationships. The one thing that you got to learn more than anything else is how to love yourself.
How to love
Yeah.
yourself. And I would definitely say with COVID, you know, if I had come February or March of this year, if I had chose to blow my hair out straight, you wouldn't know what the heck because I was looking, you know, kind of beige.
And that's real talk. Because when we actually met you, she came in to meet Mama C at the store. And my mother said, well, who's this little Puerto Rican girl?
Yes, it's like you don't know it. I can vibe with the best of the Kardashians every day, all day. You know what I'm saying? Every day, all day. They don't know if I'm Chloe or Kim. And you know, Chloe, you're not sure about OJ. And I'm sorry. Allegedly. Allegedly.
To each other, we also, you know, we have to be mindful because growing up, we also, you know, different colors. So we're like, who's the little Puerto Rican girl? So not consciously doing it, but we do it because it's ingrained. for us to do
It's
it.
definitely
So
an
I'm looking
ingrained.
in the chat room, and you know, Mama C, who's actually pure? Because the
I
truth
don't know
be-
too many people that are.
Truth be
Exactly.
told,
I'm
we are
pure.
all
Beautiful.
biracial and multicultural, is what she's saying in the chat room. So maybe we should read out the number for people
Yes.
to call in.
888-304-4401. 888-304-4401. I want to give a shout out to We Share. They just had an amazing book bag drive. And let me just share with you real quick, going back to either interracial or what have you, whatever racial you want to talk about. I'm going to talk about being broke.
We're
and
all
being
that.
and being poor and being one of them kids. Let me tell you what I wanted. Hold on, we're gonna take about 2 seconds to talk about me, because we should. Trapper Keeper. If you are a person of a certain age, Trapper Keeper was this notebook.
You wanted a trapper keeper?
Man, I wanted a Trapper
first came
Keeper
out,
so
wanted a Trapper
badly. I wanted a Trapper Keeper. I also wanted to go to the Fresh Air Fun Kids, and I wanted to go to Happy People's Camp, but none of this took place in my life. I had a dungaree-looking notebook that had 3 rings, and it was big as heck. Big ass rings, okay? And I wanted a Trapper Keeper, and it didn't work out like that. And I also had to use a brown paper bag to cover my book. There was no book.
Let me shout out to the paper bag. They were the sturdiest.
That's what I heard. But you knew who was on the free lunch program, okay? You knew who was on the free lunch program. And so I want to just share with We Share. I wish I knew you then. because I was a hot mess going to school.
They actually took orders of what the kids wanted. So if you wanted to
Wait, y'all took
Yeah, they took orders.
I needed a
Color, notebook,
What you
or
want?
bag, or
Man,
whatever.
I had every day I had to use that sharpener that was on the wall that you spun with my yellow number 2. I never had a retractable pencil.
They didn't make the
Me too, honey, me
retractable.
too.
I don't know when they made them, but I know that I wouldn't have even known about it, okay? Because I still never got a trapper keeper or a baby alive. Let me just tell you about my life. My life.
You can come see me in private.
See, clearly I need Marsha for my PTSD. She is an LSW licensed social worker. I need social work. I got problems.
Marsha's right next to you,
Right
honey.
here. I'm going to have to cash app her. Y'all know Tiffany's going to have to help me with the cash app because you know I don't know how to cash app either. Because I'm still that child with
Oh
the
my God.
dungaree 3-hole book.
That's hilarious.
So I want to give a shout out to We Share and what they have done and all of the amazing things that they are doing for the community. They are on, what's their, do you know their address?
746.
She's so good.
Oh
It's
my God.
close.
Milford Road.
Milford
East
Road.
East Stroudsburg.
Milford Road. We Share. Just Google We Share. Google the Sistahship, and you will see their information. We want to thank them so much. They're such a strong participant in what we are doing here at the Sistahship. And I want to give a shout again, another book bag drive. So if hey, if you missed this weekend with the We Share, Trisha Womack is having a book bag drive. And I'm going to you know what? At this particular time, I could buy as many Trapper Keepers as I want. So I'm going to buy some for that other child, the new up-and-coming Tiffany of the world. I'm going to get some Trapper Keepers or something for you guys, and I'm going to make sure
They've
that
evolved.
Trisha...
I gotta share. Gina Gilchrist said the paper
Do you know how
bag
much those
is
are
the
now?
bomb.
I don't even know.
Walk outside in the rain with your paper bag.
Man, listen. And
We gotta
I
end the
didn't-
commercials, guys.
I know we're gonna end the commercial, but I had to use. I didn't even have a book bag.
Oh, it's over.
That's what we was. This is how we was living. We was
But
whatever.
if you were an artist,
I
those
was-
brown paper
let me
bags
tell
were
you.
perfect.
So I try. Of course, I used everything I could to just be fly with mine, and that made me draw.
That's right.
And
That's
do
right.
all those graffiti
That's
things.
right.
So mine was really cute, and I want y'all to explore your minds. But however, this child still has PTSD of a Trapper Keeper. And if there's someone out there that feels that they want to make sure that Tiffany Road.info has her own Trapper Keeper, you can bring it to Genesis Radio right here at 18 South 9th Street in Suite 104 in Stroudsburg. Okay, so
we gonna be seeing a whole bunch of Trapper Keepers coming.
She can donate them till we share them.
So we're gonna refocus because I'm sure we're not trying to re-traumatize other people. that
I
needed
just
a
had a
Trapper Keeper.
moment. I had a moment.
But we started out with the pros of being in an interracial relationship. So let's deal with some of the cons.
Well, one of them I want to talk about, and again, we kind of touched it, but living with the assumption of everyone around you. So the assumptions of people, relationships are built on love and should be not defined by the comments and wondering eyes. However, the wondering eyes exist. And you actually have children that come from this, this beautiful relationship and this loving relationship and this honorable relationship. And as that child, and you shared with myself and Lady Wisdom in reference to, again, the wondering eye of what are you, what is going on, who are you, what all these pieces are. As that mother, and they have these conversations and these things happen, or did they not deal with things like that?
I think though they're fortunate for growing up in this area because they
Okay.
are not the minority. They are not. They are the
They
majority.
absolutely aren't.
Yeah, they are. And I think if we lived in a more rural area, I wouldn't live in a more rural area. To be honest with you,
You don't want to.
I would go. Yeah, I would go there, and I would be like, we can't live here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I want my kids to just be comfortable in their skin and who they are, and that's that. Like I said, my younger one, she identifies herself as black, and that's it.
How does that feel to you?
Fine. She knows her mother's white. That doesn't bother me whatsoever.
Because when you think of even religion, the children are the mother. They are. They are the mother. So what in you, because there's some women out here, what in you gravitated to a space, or what happened to you that conversation, you said it so fast and so quickly, it wasn't even a second thought.
No, it's not.
But for the women that it is a second thought, how can you help deliver them with this energy? Because this was energy right here.
Yeah.
Y'all see, this is what's messed up. We need a town hall thing or something. What is that? Isn't that a thing? We need a thing like that, because that energy I just felt. How can you help someone?
They have to have an understanding that as a person choosing to be in that relationship, if they're going to have children, they have to be just as accepting also, and allow their children to be who they're going to identify to be. That's their responsibility and their love as a mother.
But it's also important to have the conversation with your children, biracial relationships is the culture, right? The differences, the history, et cetera, and so on, because I think they lose, I've heard of children who just get lost in who they are, right? They don't know who to identify with or how to identify. And it's difficult. I mean, I have, like I said, nieces and nephews that are biracial. And thankfully, those conversations have been had. And, my husband and I talked about if we ever had children, we are going to tell them everything, because they need to understand both sides. They need to understand where they come from, how we got here, et cetera, and so on. Because if you don't have those conversations, they're going to be lost.
They're going to get the misinformation as the world is going to give them.
Exactly.
And we have had those conversations. Those are an absolute must. You're right about that. And like both of my girls, we've sat down and we've watched Roots as a family. Like, we don't hide either side. I'm primarily Italian, so both of them know a lot about me also. So
yeah, I'm Italian as well.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So Italian.
It's Italian.
Grew up in a Jewish
Pretty much.
environment. Went to a diverse
Lucky you.
school.
Woo, woo.
Okay, that's fire. Okay, let's call that.
And been told I was Puerto Rican.
Oh, Jesus.
There's been a lot of people that look at me, they, white girl and Italian nationality, and have said she's Puerto Rican. And I'm like, and my husband actually makes jokes about that, because he says if we go to the South, you better start speaking some Puerto Rican.
Hola.
He said, because if we're in a car together, I don't want to. He's like, I don't want it to be a white and black. He goes, you better start speaking Spanish.
I think, and I think it's important that you instill the confidence in your children just to be confident and be who they are.
Yes.
Well, we next week we're going to talk about the kids.
Right.
I want to go.
So we're going to go there, but I since that's the case, I mean, I fit in everywhere, but it's so hard to so in interracial relationships, there's a lot that comes with it, right, wrong, or indifferent. And because there's so much that comes with it, were you able to brace yourself? And I'm asking because you are currently in the relationship. So were you able to brace yourself for what was to come? Because
You and I on the same page.
we can actually constantly decide, it's no big deal, I could do this and I could do it that way. But like in vanilla ice cream and like in chocolate ice cream, you're still going to have those people that's going to be upset because they got the twist machine that makes the two ice creams come together, right? So
I like that ice cream.
in the process of it, you have to brace yourself, right? So when I was growing up, my ex-husband is brown skin. He's a black man. He's actually black and Native American. But we were always taught that if you had any bit of black in you, you were black.
Yeah.
That was law.
That was law.
It wasn't even about being taught. That was law.
Well,
Right.
we are taught the law, right? So in the process of it, when you're dealing with it, like when I first came up here in this area, a lot of the kids were afraid to get into relationships, even though they may have liked the other ethnicity.
Right.
But if one of the parents got upset because their daughter might have been dating a black boy, they would call the cops and call rape, and them boys would be arrested and put in
Jesus,
jail.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's real talk.
Yeah.
So you had to brace yourself for all of that. So before you got pregnant, you were in a relationship, you had the dirty looks, you had the attitudes, whether it was male or female, because people like to make it out that black women have the biggest problem with the interracial dating. It's not the interracial dating that's the problem. It's the way you disrespect the black woman to say that you are with a white woman. It's how because you can be dogged by any ethnicity.
Oh, absolutely.
You can get a relationship when they're going to dog you either way, but it became a bragging point, and that bragging point becomes a problem.
And that's
I'm
ignorance.
with her.
Straight ignorance.
I'm with her because she allows me to do me,
Ugh.
or she don't put as much pressure on me. So in the same time,
Or
they're degrading the white woman that they being with
to say,
to call themselves hurting and degrading the black woman they coming against.
a brown woman who raised a black male child by herself had to play mommy and daddy, so her vibration was heavy.
Well, let's be clear. We never, and let me clear it. Let me speak from me. We don't ever play daddy. There's things that a dad can do that a female can't ever do.
That's true.
I can't
but
ever.
that male son,
I have a male son.
right,
I couldn't raise my son to be a man.
right.
I can teach him the things that I knew that were manly, but I could teach him how to deal with a woman.
Right.
I have my son is actually expecting his first child, and he's gonna have an interracial child. Where there's people that I've watched parents say to their sons, "You're not bringing a white girl home."
Absolutely.
Who could I be to say such a thing?
Right.
When if you look at me, I'm your white grandmother. You understand what I'm saying? But either way, all like I said to the young lady, if I ever see you disrespecting my son or my grandchild, I don't have a problem taking my grandchild. I'm in my 50s, and I'll raise them as if I wasn't. My son, I don't need him paying for the deeds or the experiences that you had growing up. The young woman happens to come from somebody, her dad threatened that he would disown her if she ever dealt with a black male. Now, I know that she dealt with some trauma. So you need help. We as people need to stop making therapy taboo and give people help.
Right.
They have to be accepted for who they are. And in the process of it, you have these males, and I'm go back to the topic where we have these males that are growing up and they have black moms. There's no doubt about what ethnicity they are. There's nothing, these women have done everything they possibly could for these young men, and they get misinformed and misunderstand the information, and they don't understand the anger and the frustration that a black woman may have. So they say some things that's hurtful, not because they know, but because they're not being taught
Right.
by a man how to be a man.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful when we say that we take on the responsibility as a two-parent household. My household had two parents at one point, and then it was happier, two separate homes. But the one thing that people can see, and your kids see it more than you, is you. For those moms that are out there that have children, know your son sees you, know your daughter sees you. But they don't only see you, they feel you. They feel your energy, they feel your hurt, they feel your pain. Learn to heal or get some kind of healing, because these are the generational things that are experiencing. had the Lovins not been who they were, we wouldn't be where we are. We would still have that law
Right.
that made it illegal for interracial relationships to happen. Interracial relationships just remind the world that the United States is the melting pot. It has a little bit of everything.
There's a little bit of everything. Well, we got so much work to do with a little bit of everything here. However, part of what you were sharing, and I would ask, again, having brown males, because again, it's not only just interracial, but then there's also this gender piece. So living with how the world has been, not now. It's just there's this thing that has a video. When your significant others leave, or when your children leave, what is the information that you are growing or learning or teaching or understanding or overstanding of what happens once they leave the door? Are you able to handle, if my husband doesn't call me back after a certain amount of time, I can think some things, and I come from an experience because, again, being who I am, and I've said it before on this show, at the age of 5, I knew how to assume the position. I knew what that relationship was with authority in blue versus this, a hood rat from South Jamaica, Queens, and that feeling and that situation. Not being that, maybe coming from an environment where the police were there to protect and serve. When your husbands, your daughters, because this is a female brown thing too, talk about being that mother, because you're still the matriarch of your home. You're still that maternal instinct that your husbands or your significant others come back to. How do you service or be of servitude to your household under those circumstances when you come from a different foundation of life?
For myself, I think I'm a worrier anyway. I'm going to worry about my children leaving the house, regardless of their skin color, too. But that does kind of stink in our society when we still have these things going on. And we have to explain that and talk with our kids still about how they do need to be polite, be respectful. The same as you were saying before, there's good police, there's bad police. There's ugly in the world. We can't shield them from that, and that's it.
Yeah, I think for granted, I don't have children, but when I speak from my husband, yeah, I'm concerned when he leaves the home because he has been stopped by cops 40 times in his lifetime, and with me, at least 10 plus. But the other element also is the confidence that he can do anything, because I think he keeps, he said, it's 10 times, I got to work 10 times harder to be where I am. I went to college. My parents did so much for, his parents did a lot for him, and he grew up in a great environment and his parents were supportive and et cetera and so on. But he still, to this day, in certain levels, feels that he's got to work harder, or he feels he's not confident enough to get the accolades he needs because he's doing so well. I mean, he's a smart individual. And we joke around because I always say, your name is Darren Johnson. Like, stop that, feeling that you're not worthy or you're not doing enough or, so I feel like you have to be a support mechanism more than I would have ever thought, because I'm like, really? Why do you feel this way? Why do you feel this way?
And I think that's important when you're in the relationship, that both people can be open to understanding why they feel that. And we have to have that care towards them.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important, again, to your point, Tiffany, is like, those type of situations, those are some of the things that, being a white woman, having a black husband, I have to consider those elements because it is different than it would have been with a white man, because of privilege and whatever have you.
Here it is. We're going to get juicy. When you hear, and again, I'm going to talk from where I come from, and I'm a woman of a certain age, so I'm going to definitely say that probably my daughter Genesis, this would not be her conversation, but a little bit different. But we were taught white people take everything from black culture but the burden.
Oh, y'all waiting for me to say something?
No, I'm just saying. No, you
We weren't
you
taught
started.
that.
You know.
We weren't taught that.
So I want to just give us a little history.
Which is
Yes, somebody's talking. We're gonna get back to it.
I mean, I'm looking in the chat room, and I can't believe we don't have one caller because this chat room is.
The chat room is on fire, but I know everybody want to be PC, politically correct. Nobody want to talk about these hard topics. Sometimes it's better to just take in the information, and you know your girl here can talk. So call if you want, chat if you want. We here. We gonna get through this, and we are all here together. And I understand sometimes. And again, I started the beginning saying this, and I want to be throughout. I want to thank both of these wonderful women, a licensed therapist, social worker, and also our host who has allowed herself to be almost a guest. And that's a powerful position to be in, and a transparent place to be in, and a vulnerable place to be in. And I have to just thank you so much with my full heart, because this is a lot. And again, we're dealing with, and
This
I
is
know
also a tough topic.
it's
It
a
is
tough topic.
very
It's a
difficult.
tough topic. So we, recently on May 25th, George Floyd was killed in a cold-blooded, Minneapolis police officer, while 3 more aided and watched, prompting nationwide outrage and protests in all of 50 states. And it happened to happen during the pandemic, where everybody was home watching. As a result, Black Lives Matter movement is far more visible than it ever had been before. Not only is it the driving force behind recent police changes within cities across various states, such as LA, but it also started where there's a defunding and a reduced funding of the LAPD and other police
And
departments.
clarifying, defunding is not getting rid of
No,
police.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
It is actually retraining with diversity.
That's
teaching
right.
more diversity in the system. A lot of people are unaware that that's what it means.
But it has also caused some uncomfortable recent conversations with Caucasian and white people. I really feel that I know the conversations have been a lot more uncomfortable since those moments. And the shift towards accountability has hit very close to home. So that being said, that's why I said when there is this, this ideology, okay, if you behave correctly, you're going to be okay.
Well, I'll say this.
Yes.
My son was in that car accident. And when he was in his car accident, he called me first. Before he called the police, he called me first. And he called me, he said, "Mom, I fell asleep." He said, "I'm so exhausted." And he was riding down from Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area, where his job had him going. But he was coming, it was the middle of the night, it's probably 3 o'clock in the morning. I jumped out my bed, I threw on my sweats, and I pulled a hat on my head. When I got to the scene, they kept giving my son a breathalyzer. So the one thing I used to try to teach people is just because you're light skinned doesn't mean that they don't notice. Okay? So my son, I hate, and I literally just hate this gum. Trident Original Gum, for those of you who don't know, will give a false positive on a breathalyzer.
Wait, let's put that on the thing.
Say it again.
Trident
So the
original.
Trident Original Gum will give you a false positive on a breathalyzer. And it doesn't give it to the breathalyzer. It gives it to the person that's standing in front of you. It smells as if you've had alcohol when you're chewing this gum. When I walked up, they had given my son, this was his 5th breathalyzer. I walked up, and the man said, "Sorry, miss, you can't come here." And I said, "That's my son." And he let me walk over and stand next to my son. And I said to him, "Are you eating Trident Original Gum?" He said, "Yes." I spit that out. The officer, was a state police officer, said to me, "Excuse me?" I said for him to spit that gum out. That is why y'all keep smelling that alcohol. He did the breathalyzer again while I was standing there. The other police officer did not hear what I had said to him. So he came over and he was giving him another one. I said, "Let him take it. It's coming back negative because you're not drinking alcohol. It's that gum that you're chewing." When the officer, he spit the gum out, and they had a conversation with him. The scent was gone. Took another breathalyzer. It was clear. He said to him, I'm glad this lady came up. He said, "This is my mom." He said, "Well, I'm glad your mom came up." He said, "Well," so he asked him, he said, "So what did you say happened again?" And I said, "Did you tell him what happened?" And he said, "Yeah, I told him." So the officer came over and he said, "I fell asleep before on my way home and I had an accident." And I said, "Well, were you testing him because of his breathalyzer? Right, wrong, or indifferent, it'll do that. So those of you that chew that original Trident gum, be mindful. It'll give you, they'll think you're drinking with it." They finished, now when they were dealing with my son, they were dealing with his white mother. That's the easiest way to say it.
Someone said Sherry's correct.
Wow.
Huh?
Sherry is agreeing with you. She said Sherry is correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They don't actually see me.
Mm.
They see
The complexion.
my complexion.
Yeah.
I had my hair wasn't out, no anything. I had a hat on. As we were walking away, they spoke to me with respect. They spoke to my son with respect. They bid us home good. They gave us the report. The report was respectable, everything. I literally stood there and praised God.
Mm.
And at that moment was the first moment that I didn't care whether they saw me as a white woman.
Mm.
Because I felt like my son was safer.
Wow.
Because I looked white.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Shame.
Wow.
But I thank God for that moment because it showed me and it taught me the things that I might not have known or noticed for my children that are of color. But now I'm concerned not only for my son, but for my daughters. And I got grandchildren. I got a son-in-law. My son-in-law, you can tell he's a black male. So my prayer, all those that don't know about praying, let me tell y'all about praying parents, praying grandparents. Some of y'all are only alive because your grandmother prayed for you.
That's right. That
Yeah.
energy.
Praying
That
is
energy.
huge. I'm going to let it go back.
No,
I just
no,
want y'all to
no,
know
that
that was
was-
that
That's real talk, though.
that
That's real
was a
talk.
part of, I was just
That's real talk
piggybacking off what you had asked
about
them.
being again looking a certain way. There's in this country, there's definitely privileges that have been documented. Let's just call that what it is. And so let's talk about being of a privilege. We obviously extensively draw from Black culture every single day, from the music, from the clothing, the slang. So thinking about cultural appropriation being, in these relationships, how do you balance what that might look like? Again, I call them black sense, our language, our conversations. Do certain words happen in those households? Do you feel like there is an appropriation? Do you feel that there is this piece that you're able to do because you're in this environment versus if you weren't in this environment?
That's a good question. That's a real good question because I think that, it's funny because I went to Florida and somebody said to me, "Well, you sound like you from New York." What does that mean? What does that mean? And up here, people say you sound country. And I'm like, well, what does country mean? I mean, my tone, how I speak.
You have an accent, girl.
I have an accent. I do, and I don't
accent-
even know where the
I always
accent
say an
comes from.
accent is only someone utilizing the information that they have received to then have a conversation with you.
And
That's what an accent is.
and that's and depending on, and it's funny because people say you're like a chameleon. Depending on the situation or who you are in front, your mannerism, your tone, your conversation, it's all, it can change. And it's dependent on the environment you're in. And as a child growing up in a very diverse school system and so on and so forth, you pick up things that are just based on the relationships, based on who you're speaking with. You know, whether you're corporate or, you know, on the street, I can switch because that's just who I am. I just take on what's the environment that I'm in.
That reminds you again, like I said the last time, we are energy-filled people.
Yeah,
We pull energy from one another.
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So if you're around people long enough, you'll pick up on it. I mean, you just don't realize you actually pick up the way they sound comes through your ear.
And I never realized that until somebody actually, you know, again, going to Florida and somebody's like, well, you speak like you from New York. And I'm like, what? You know, and then up here, the, you know, Southern accent, or you got a little bit of a twang in how you speak or whatever have you. And I'm like, I don't understand because this is how I speak.
Right.
I don't get it.
Would you say it is an infatuation with the culture, or is it just part of the journey?
I think it's part of the journey.
Yeah, I think it's the journey because, I mean, it's never been a situation where I said, I'm infatuated with this, so I'm going to start, you know, acting or speaking or whatever. And I hate when people, this is the one thing that annoys me is when people say, you speak like you're black. What does that mean?
Well, yeah.
What does that mean?
I have been told I speak like I'm white.
What does that
You know,
mean?
when I'm in my
Work zone,
when I'm in my work zone, I'm told I speak as if
And my
I was
husband
white.
too.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here saying, excuse me, I am the black child they taught to read. Okay, so I got that happened. That happened. I read a book.
I learned how to speak.
I learned how to speak. You don't have to say, you speak so well.
It's
For
not a
what?
compliment.
For what? What do I speak well from what? Who do you know? What rock did you live under, or what hole did you know, what wolf raised you? Yes, Tifko.
But
What
how do
wolf?
we change that? Because we all do it, right? And Stephania took the words out of my mouth because a lot of the times people will say, "You sure she's white?" And I'm like, what?
Well, let's talk about that really quickly in reference to honestly. We're talking about interracial relationships. I always say, you know, the balance between marriage. There should always be some love or an attraction, but it's also business. Now, with business, you know, let's talk about again going in a relationship of business, because it's a contract. So this is real talk. So black culture sells.
It does.
And it sells really well.
Absolutely. Make billionaires.
When others hijack that culture.
Absolutely.
So we have, what's the girl who sings, the rapper, I can't remember. She had the song Fancy. What is it, the girl? She had one song.
Ziggy Azalea.
Ziggy Azalea. She had one song, She'll Never Have to Work a Day in Her Life. Lil' Kim right now still got to go get some work done every week and do a show. So let's, you know, again, when that takes place, there again goes back and forth with the conversation. And how do we heal? How do we heal? And that can't happen today. You know, but there might be some conversation. How can we heal? Because when you are from a different background and you see how hard what it takes for us to be able to do a certain thing, and another group can come and grab it. Eminem can be called the king of hip hop. How? He's amazing.
Well, that's like the Kardashians. They talked about for many generations. They talked
exploit black trends.
They talked about big lips. They talked about the nose. They talked about the butts. They talked about the hairstyles. And now one of the younger Jenners is big. She's a billionaire now.
From a lip kit.
Based on making her lips bigger. And all of them got the butt fixed. And
allegedly, the Genesis Radio and its affiliates are not responsible for the conversations or the author speaking something. You know, you heard that in the beginning. Okay,
my
continue.
opinion is mine. So let me help y'all out.
I agree with your
that.
opinion.
My opinion is mine. They even renamed a cornrow a box braid. Because, what what's the one? Kim
Kim.
Kardashian wore cornrows going back,
Right.
and then they tried to rename it. At one point when I first came up here and they was doing hairstyles here, the stylists were able to braid hair. The ones that came from different areas was able to braid hair. Do you know that the state in this area, this county, I'm not sure if it's anywhere else, but I know in this county, they wanted hairstylists to go back to school
To get a license.
to get a license to braid hair
That's all.
that they couldn't teach you how to do, but they just wanted to make that money.
They
They
want,
told you a certain amount of hours.
let's be very clear, e-commerce, anything that any ethnicity can do and create,
saw the money
they
that
will
could be made
always
off of it.
make it become something that needs to be licensed in order to get the commerce and the tax revenue from that said skill. That's just that's the USA. That's really what it is.
But you can't teach it. You can't charge for it.
Yeah. But again,
They still
going
don't
to
teach it.
cultural appropriation in reference to being in this, like it. Let me just say this: it's real difficult living for me. I have had to go through things living in this skin. I've had to go through things being married to a man living in his skin and the children that's living in their skin. However, that being said, it is very easy for me to be black is black is black is black. It's very easy for me to do all of those things with my children. How is that? Again, where's that is it comfortable saying the N-word? Is it comfortable saying certain things that are black sense, black culture, conversations, calling, we on a sistership. Sister is a black conversation, saying that. You don't say sister, we say sister. So how is that conversation when now being in relationships, now you got to come and be yourself and get in front of somebody? How do you balance where you're saying to yourself, is this cultural appropriation, or am I just being who I am, or do I have to be mindful of this conversation?
I think it depends on what it is. Again, going back to the N-word, I would never, neither my husband, and he's black, never say it.
Right.
Because that's I don't care how popular you're
word.
making it. I don't care if you put an A at the end, an ER, whatever it is, it's not appropriate. Period. It's not a friendship term.
For you.
It's, for me, that I don't agree with that.
I can,
you know what I'm saying? I don't. For me, and but as far as the setting that you're in, and there's certain things you have to be cognizant of, especially when you're talking about people who are of different races in a relationship together. What's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And I'll be honest, as a white person, I had to learn, because of not being, young, I wasn't in an interracial relationship, I am now, what is appropriate, what's not appropriate. The N-word never was appropriate from when I was a child. But, there are certain things that you have to be cognizant of that could be hurtful, that could be said in a certain way, that could be offensive, and it's okay as long as you understand that and then are conscious of how you're speaking and what you're saying and the language you're using so that it's not hurtful to the other individual. I think, again, it depends on the situation.
Do you feel that that's something you would owe the culture? Or do you feel that, and I'll ask you, do you feel that's something you owe the culture? Or do you feel that, hey guys, give me a learning curve to figure this out?
No, I don't think I need a learning curve.
Okay.
But I also don't think I owe the culture that. I think we all should be respectful in the
Absolutely.
way we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Regardless. We should always, communication should be respectful.
And that's, I guess, in every race, every culture, whatever have you, right? So, we have to be mindful of anybody we're having a conversation with, because we can be disrespectful even within our own race.
What's the Italian slang term? Do you remember that from Jersey?
Look, there's a whole bunch of Italian slang.
WOP.
That used to bother me. It's interesting you say that, because speaking of a interracial,
It's old
WOP.
Yeah, WOP.
What's interesting is
It's
that
an old, insult towards Italian people.
Okay.
someone was actually, a black girl was dating an Italian / African American gentleman, right? and we're having a little dialogue, whatever, and he called himself
The word.
the word.
Is that so help me out, because now I need some help. Is that a bad word?
It's almost like calling the N-word to us in Italian, from an Italian culture.
It's the equivalent of a
It's
slang
equivalent
insult.
as
It's
a slang. It's a
insult
slang.
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a slang.
Okay.
It's a very derogatory slang term for an Italian
It's
person.
like what they called me at work one day.
Is that what they call?
They called me a mulatto.
Oh, mulatto.
Is that a
Yes.
bad word?
And actually it is.
Okay. Okay.
And the person that got more upset with me was a male. He was a vet. And when he heard that person call me that, he was fire red. That's exactly the color he changed. And it's like calling somebody the N-word or the WOP.
And mulatto is a biracial. It's like mulatto's
slang.
like
It's a
it's
slang
slang.
for-
It's a slang word.
And, but I
for a
want to also
biracial
really
child.
quickly because I know somebody will
It's a slang
say
term. It's
we
meant to
definitely
insult.
understand that the N word was utilized and used
Yeah.
as a legal conversation in reference to people that can, with laws, do harmful racist acts.
Yep.
We're not trying to say it's exactly the same.
It's not.
exactly the same.
No.
But we're so I want, because I know how y'all do. So I want to fix y'all before y'all do what y'all do. Because it's all love, but we know. I don't want y'all, they don't know. No, we know. So I want to throw that out there. We're going to go back. Okay.
So now that you know what the word
right.
is, are you concerned whether your children are?
I haven't heard that in a long time. I'm
I
really,
haven't either.
And I'm sure when
I
they
was
come home, we'll
totally
have the
I
discussion.
actually was totally surprised.
Yeah.
That I heard the word.
I don't think I've heard that since I was a teenager.
If they're saying
It's been
that,
a
they're
long
not
time.
saying
We're
it
talking-
in love.
They didn't say
No.
it in
That's
love.
what I'm saying.
It was
They're not
very
saying it in
recent.
love.
So because you have mixed children, and I'm speaking as a mixed person, I'm asking you, how do you deal with your children on those kind of things? It's like the N word, right? So here's a prime example, the B word, right?
I can't stand,
stand it.
Often they allow certain words to become popular in the form,
Housewives of Atlanta.
in the form of thinking that it's a positive thing, right? I don't get insulted if somebody calls me the B word, only because I changed the definition of it. But it's technically a disrespectful word to
Absolutely.
females. And it's not cute. I don't want to be somebody's bad one, none of that. And so because we are talking about cross-cultural, we have to be mindful of it, right? So in seeing that you have 2 daughters, you have nieces and nephews, how do you have those conversations?
Just the same as any other about people being insulting towards you. Like there's good and bad, and people are going to say these things to you. You're going to come across it.
But now you have to explain mulatto. Like you said, you have not heard
Oh, I would explain
that
exactly how we
word,
just had that dialect.
right?
Yeah.
That's a hard word to actually explain. Because when it happened, one of my coworkers was playing with the word around the office. And
And I think,
and
too,
I didn't actually sit her down. The man did.
the guy did. But I also think, too, when it depends a lot of how your journey has been when you receive that word. So that's why I'm sitting here saying I've been called so many things. Aqua, all kind of stuff. So mulatto, hey, that's pretty cool, in reference to the lineage of words.
And who knows? You know what? Actually, who knows? It might not even bother them in this generation. They
And
might,
that's the
they
other-
might be calling each
right.
other that.
And that's why
And this
and
generation
that's
is
why
so
I'm
different.
saying, how
Yeah.
do you have that conversation? Because what they're trying to do, what they've tried to
Make
do
it acceptable.
in the social media and in the media and television and such, is to try to make those things okay, but
Yeah.
at the same time degrade. So
Absolutely.
how do you got to be able to explain that?
And I know you know what? Let me tell you how good God is. I don't hate because I'm going to be traveling, and I won't be here next week. But next week we're going to have the youth continuing this conversation because I'm looking at my girl Tiff and she looking because I know it's
my
we got 2 minutes left, and so really quickly I want us to kind of just go around the table a little bit. First of all, thank you so much for our guests. Thank you for We
Thank you.
Share. Again, the book drive. Trish, she's going to be at the Dansbury Park on Saturday, on the 21st. So please drop off a Trapper Keeper for her to give to the children like me.
I'm very happy you brought up the Trapper Keeper again.
There's gonna be a flood of Trapper Keepers coming.
And if anyone
And
wants
I'm going to start to ask my clients, do you have a Trapper Keeper?
because I have this real saddened grown woman who has some serious problems about a Trapper Keeper, and Stephia Bling. Oh my God! Now let me tell you, I did a quick thing on my Facebook. Her jewelry don't turn your ear green and it don't itch. So what is it called? Because it worked out for me.
It's paparazzi accessories.
Paparazzi accessories. It
Steph's
worked.
blings and things.
Please do. It worked out for me, and nothing works out for me, and it worked out. So please, Lady Wisdom, OMG. I just, it is. I always get a blessing. When we pulled up here, she had to finish church. Let me tell you how serious this woman is about what she's about. Tiffany Cole, love, bling, bling, bling. My man Terry, this is Genesis Radio. All your marketing needs, please reach out to Tiff Cole. I know the music is playing, and oh my God, thank you so much. We on a sistership. Next week, same back channel, same back time. We love you, Sistahship. We on a sistership. What?
Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it.
Tiffany Rowe.
Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about facts. Let's talk about living. Talk about giving. Talk come on, let's talk about it.
Stephia knows all the words. She's a real sister. Come on, because I don't even know all the words. I done caught up yet.
We got this, sisters. You roll with me and I roll with you.
Substance. Oh.
Sis, you know we on a mission, no games. Help each other get over some things. Build strength, bring change. Cause we've been through the rain. Now it's time to shine like bling. Let's talk about life skills. We building up our quality to
Right wills.
We rolling out of poverty.
Love heals.
So we become the prodigy of how a sistership could be a really hot commodity. Stand together, we united, hold hands. Support each other dreams and our plans. Doing everything we can. Just to show we understand the power of a friendship, fam. Live life on purpose. Together we learn it. Yeah, let's talk. We don't want to see you hurt, and we here for each other. No matter the color, networking. That's for sure and for certain.
Oh, yeah, we on a sistership.
Come with us, we on a sistership. Yeah, we on a sistership.
Roll with us, we on a sistership.
We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya.
Sistahship, we got it now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got it now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got it now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got it now. Come on, let's talk about it.
We on a sistership. We on a sistership. Peace.
Tiffany Rowe!
We clear?
We better be clear because I just